Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Paramahansa Parajagacharya Ashtottara Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajagacharya Ashtottara Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayana Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktim Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So before we begin, this is the appearance day of Sri Chandra Kabiraj and the disappearance day of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So we're going to leave some time at the end to read about them. And this is not... I don't have the... All right, so we didn't get it. Okay, this thing is malfunctioning. I don't have the verse number. 429:22. Okay. All right. On this first day of February 2020, 21 in SanDiego. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 4th canto, 29th chapter, and 22nd verse. You didn't bring a device, your phone. Okay. Yeah, share with him. It's not enough time. Okay. Kalakanya jara sakshal lokastang nabinandati swasaram jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha Kalakanya jara sakshal lokastang nabinandati swasarang jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha Kalakanya jara sakshal lokastang nabinandati swasarang jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha Kalakanya jara sakshal lokastam nabinandati swasarang jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha Kalakanya jara sakshal lokastam nabinandati swasarang jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha Kalakanya jara sakshal lokasthang nabhinandati swasarang jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha Kalakanya jara sakshal lokasthang nabhinandati swasarang jagrihe mrityu chayaya yavaneshwaraha. No? Kalakanya, the daughter of time. Jara, old age. Sakshat, directly. Lokaha, all living entities. Tam, her. Na, never. Abhinandati, welcome. Swasaram, as his sister. Jagrihe, accepted. Mrityu, death. Chayaya, for destruction. Yavana Ishwaraha, the king of the Yavanas. So Narada Muni is continuing to explain the allegory that he spoke to King Pratyanabharishat. What was described as Kalakanya should be understood as old age. No one wants to accept old age. But Yavaneshwara, Yavanaraj, who is death, accepts Jara, old age, as his sister. Purport. Encaged within the body, the living being accepts Kalakanya, old age, just before death. Yavaneshwara is the emblem of death, Yamaraj. Before going to the place of Yamaraj, the living entity accepts Jara, old age, the sister of Yamaraj. One is subjected to the influence of Yavanaraj and his sister due to impious activity. Those who are in Krishna consciousness and are engaged in devotional service under the instruction of Narada Muni are not subjected to the influence of Yamaraj and his sister Jara. If one is Krishna conscious, he conquers death. After leaving the material body, he does not accept another body that is material, but returns home back to Godhead. This is verified by Bhagavad Gita 4:9. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Bhagavad Gita 4:9. We can chant together. Janma karmata me divyam evam yo veti tatpataha tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sojana. One who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my birth and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take another physical body, but comes to me, back to Godhead. So, this is another one of the problems of being in a material body, identifying with a physical body, being conditioned. Inevitably, well, you have two choices. You can die prematurely, or you can get old and die and suffer the problems that come with old age, which inevitably means different kinds of diseases. So diseases don't necessarily wait for old age in the normal sense, although Prabhupada defined old age as just before death. So you can, a 6-year-old girl can be old age if she's going to die of cancer in 6 months. But in normal, the usual sense of the term, old age naturally comes to everybody. Every so often you hear that they're actually claiming now that they've figured out how to reverse aging. I mean, there's all these news flashes coming that the telomeres, I forget how it goes, is sometimes counteracted, So this is a dream that's been going on since time immemorial. And you actually see in the Bhagavatam, but through the power of yoga, it is possible. What is that Saubhari Muni? He'd been meditating under the water in the Yamuna for years and years and years. He was not only old, but he was extra wrinkly because of all of that being underwater. And so, he was agitated for sex by seeing a fish copulating. And so he came out and he wanted to get married. So he found a king, or I guess it was a king, with many young daughters. And he asked for one of them. And so the king was saying, oh boy, I don't want to, which daughter am I going to impose this guy on? Basically, he said, in his mind. So he said, okay, sure, whichever one wants to marry you, they can get, So he realized, okay, this is kind of a no. So he turned himself into a very handsome young man. And all of them wanted to marry him. And so suddenly he has many, many wives and kids and stuff, and after a while they say, boy, 50. Okay, we got a total there. And so then he saw how foolish he had been after some time, and he went back to renunciation. But this is, what is being described here, and everything is being personified. All the senses are being personified, the interactions being personified, if you read the previous verses. So, and here, old age, it kind of sticks in my mind as Kala Kanya from the actual previous chapters describing it. If I recall, wasn't it Indra? Because we heard last night from ours, I saw it online, his class, where he's quoting the Vritrasura, his prayers just before Indra kills him and sends him back to Godhead. So he's an asura, but he's really not an asura. He's a devotee with the covering of an asura. So he reveals his real nature at the end there, and he's praying, when will I see you together again? I'm just like a little bird, without unable to fly, waiting for the mother to come back, like this. Not the kind of thing you usually hear from the demons. So he's revealing his real nature. So what happened was that Indra, then this was the second Brahmin that he killed. Right? He killed Trashta's son, Vishwarup. And then, because Trashta had evoked this so-called demon, of course he mispronounced it, so instead of getting a demon who would kill Indra, he got a devotee dressed as a demon, whom Indra would kill and send back to Godhead. So then Indra had to suffer sinful reactions. And if I remember, it was Jara who was chasing after him and wanted to embrace him and marry him. So he escaped by staying underwater and breathing through a straw for like 1,000 years or something. So, but old age Now, Prabhupada says something very interesting here. He says that devotees don't have to suffer this. And one would ask, well, I mean, I'm getting old. I'm beginning to suffer that. But it's, if you're truly transcendental, we saw Prabhupada did amazing things, supernatural things. Even in the throes of, his so-called disease at the end there, doctors would come in and be amazed. He was practically like Hiranyakashipu was doing, keeping the life air in his bones. He was so emaciated. But they would say an ordinary man would be screaming in agony from this. And Prabhupada was greeting guests, and he was asking about them. He was dictating his purports. It was amazing, So what I can attest to in my little personal experience, because I'm no longer middle-aged, I'm no longer on the cusp of old age, I'm old age. It's old age now, 73. Now I'm trying mightily, as best I can to stay healthy, keep healthy. Of course, the pandemic, that's another thing. But inevitably, things are coming. Deficiencies, things you could do before, you can't do now, unusual pain suddenly happening in this part of the body, what's going on like that. So, but having lived in the world for so many years, 73 years, and I remember when my parents got old, and it was just a whole, it was a depressing thing to watch and to experience. You could see for someone, they were pious people in one sense, and so I'm very thankful for their support of me. But when you have all of your investment in the material world and in relationship with it, for your pleasure, for your sense of identity, for what you think you can do, and that's being taken away from you day by day, it's a tremendously anxiety-producing experience. And what's the response? Well, like the response, just being in the material body, is to try to forget about it, to try to absorb yourself in this or that or whatever pleasures you can enjoy, so that at least for some time you can forget about your actual situation. And it's sad to watch. I remember my mother, and this is, I think, common amongst older people. She wanted to really go over. We had all of these books of now we have videos you can watch, but these were just black and white photographs of her youth and middle age and stuff like that. Experiences she had, all in scrapbooks and things. And I would visit her every so often, and we go through that. She remember this, living in the past kind of. So. But mostly it's just a very sad experience, especially if you don't have many funds. You get put into a home, the loneliness, the incapacity, and the anxiety and the fear of what's going to happen. You can see death is all around you, and you're going to die, not knowing what's going to happen. So this is one of the four main things. This is why Krishna says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanudarshanam. Within the list of aspects of knowledge that is necessary to cultivate for a human being in society if he wants to progress and want go back to Godhead, one of the main aspects of knowledge is unalloyed and uninterrupted devotion to me. That's the most important one, Prabhupada explains in the purport. And then he goes through each of them. And in the purport, a wonderful purport. And one of the main ones, which is central to the whole understanding of what we're trying to do in Krishna consciousness, and indeed anyone in the Vedic culture who is revering mukti and understands the transmigration of the soul, this janma mrityu jara vyadi, which happens to everybody, which is part of material life, is meant to put everything else you do in your life in perspective. That's your central experience. You're going to come back to that, and it overwhelms everything else. As Krishna says, mrityu sarvaharas chaham. That probably use this phrase. People want to see God, and they ask me, "Can you show me God?" So usually he would say, "Well, do you have the eyes to see God?" You can't just see God on your own. You have to develop the vision, premanjana shrita bhakti. But aside from that, you say, "Yes, you can see God." When you die. The atheists, they see God in the form of death. all-powerful controller taking everything away. Mrityu sabhadascharam, Krishna says. It's a very extremely frightening experience. Everything you're identifying with as yours, as yourself, me and mine, aham mameti, the basic principle of false ego, is suddenly being completely attacked and defeated, and you're left with nothing. No body, no bank account, no relations, no friends, no nothing. Where am I going? Of course, it's a big shock. I sometimes say that the biggest shock when people die is to realize a moment later, hey, I'm not dead. What's going on? Who are these guys? Get away from me. You know. But that's a big shock. Every time someone dies, especially from a human form of life, you have some intelligence, you know. So what we're hearing now is a detailed investigation of all of these things. And old age is, and the real problem with birth, death, old age, and disease, the big one is disease. The others, you know, what would old age be without disease? I mean, it's the disease part of it that's the problem. Death is a very short experience, really, ultimately. And birth, you're not even awake. You know, you wake up in a human form 7 months later. I mean, it's painful being in the womb. It's horrible. But it has, you know, it's short. But disease, you know, carries on for you sometimes years. I mean, there's so many children are born now, you know, with some kind of a immunodeficiency thing or some genetic disorder or whatever, you know. Or just being poor means more likely you'll be disease. You won't get proper food, you don't have security, mental disease. That's really, you know, the one that carries through and should sober us up, should be an impetus for us to be serious about Krishna consciousness. I often point out this interesting aspect to our philosophy, and that is that, and if you hear a lot of Prabhupada lectures, you see he often, you know, many times he emphasizes this point to wake people up, because he's speaking to people who have are really, you know, Kali Yugites who have no understanding about anything. It says one should understand that your life is temporary, and that there's a meaning, there's a purpose to human life. And you've gained this human life after many births, and like every form of life, it's temporary. So time is going by. You know, we heard about time in previous verse. And therefore one has to be dira, because unlike every other form of life, the dogs, the cats, the insect, the birds, and every other form, in the human form you can achieve the goal of life. There is a goal, artadam, sva-arta it's called. It's not at all apparent to someone who's immersed in the modes of nature that there is a meaning to life beyond all of this interaction with the material energy. And that has to do, so one has to wake up. Here are the inevitable problems in life: birth, old age, disease, and death. You know, nobody likes them. You know, and so here the purpose of human life is to escape these, to end these forever. You know. Now, first of all, that requires opening one's mind to hearing things that are beyond the usual limits of our scientific understanding. And that's why life after death is, you know, transmigration of soul is the first lesson. You're an eternal soul. You've had many lives before. You'll have many lives in the future. You know, or this will be your last material life. You know, and so then you can start understanding the philosophy and the urgency of it. So I wanted to share something with you because, you know, the Bhagavatam is filled with this is this long allegory we're hearing. Is giving us the central philosophy. If you're involved in material activities, even if it's within the Vedic culture, performing sacrifices to go to heaven or whatever it is, you're still in great illusion, and you're ensuring you're suffering. There's no hope for a permanent position of happiness and security on this material plane. One has to have faith in that, and then you're open to hearing about the other kind of activity. So there's a section of the teachings of the 9 Yogendras, which I really caught my attention when I first studied it. And within these verses, this is the first of the 9 Yogendras. And the question was from King Nimi, how can one attain the ultimate good? You know? And it's interesting that he speaks at the beginning of it from how to completely overcome fear. Because as soon as you have fear, it means you're in the material realm, and you can't experience the ultimate good. The ultimate good, of course, to be reinstated in our relationship with God and Krishna. So it's all about fear, and there's this famous verse, Bhayam Dvitiya Banaveshitakshyad, about how fear is completely alien to the living entity in his original position. In Vaikuntha, the very name of the world means there's no fear, there's no anxiety. Right? You're completely peaceful and joyful, and you're serving Vishnu or Krishna eternally. It can be eternal, but sometimes if we turn away from Krishna, that's what this verse is all about. You turn your back on the Ishvara. Bhayam Dutiya Beshadak said, Ishat apetasya, turning away. Viparyo asmati. And you become absorbed in this material world of dualities, or something. Vitiya means the other energy, the material energy of Krishna, which is full of all his pleasure and pain and so forth. So that absorption causes fear, because suddenly you're detached from your protector, from the all-loving Lord. You see? So, Isharape Viparyo Smriti, Asmriti, you forget everything. Even in this one life, in material life, we forget everything of previous life. What to speak of our life in the spiritual world. And Viparya, your position is reversed. Instead of being a servant of the Lord, you try to be the master of the material energy. And it's all due to Krishna's external energy. Yanmayato. So the Buddha, the intelligent person, the other verse talks about the Dhira, the Buddha, someone who's intelligent, turns back to the Lord. Yanmaya Buddha bhajetam, worships him. How? Bhakti aikayesham. Not with materially motivated bhakti, but with one-pointed, pure devotion, bhakti aikayesham, under the guidance of your guru, who you regard as the very personification of the Lord and your worshipable master. Now the next verse is the one I wanted to just read the translation. I won't read all the purport. These are the wonderful purports when Maharaj was writing all the different acharyas, practically translating the commentaries. It's very rich. Vishwanath Chakrabarti, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Thakur, Madhvacharyas here. But this verse, which is kind of an expanded translation, but I think it very much is pertinent to what we're studying here. So, it starts out, although the duality of the material world, and remember the previous verse, that's what keeps us bound here, the delusion of duality, and good and bad, pleasure and pain. Although the duality of the material world does not ultimately exist, the conditioned soul experiences it as real under the influence of his own conditioned intelligence. Remember how we were talking about the intelligence recently? The whole key is the intelligence, because that's what we have special. So the conditioned intelligence makes us think that this is all real. Thus, this imaginary experience of a world separate from Krishna, that's a Ditiya, can be compared to the acts of dreaming and desiring. When the conditioned soul dreams at night of something desirable or horrible, or when he daydreams of what he would like to have or avoid, he creates a reality that has no existence beyond his own imagination. That the tendency of the mind is to accept and reject various activities based on sense gratification. So based on this illusory world that we've kind of concocted, really isn't there, the mind and the senses then interact with it, and we're thinking this is bad, this is good, you strive here, and you're completely bewildered. Therefore, an intelligent person should control the mind, restricting it from the illusion of seeing things separate from Krishna, and when the mind is thus controlled, he will experience actual fearlessness. So the illusion will dissipate. So we're hearing from Narada Muni, and speaking to King Prachana Barishat, of what the conditioned soul experiences. Right? The old age has come. Right? He's about to die. This has happened countless times in our own experience. And sometimes as human beings, sometimes as lower beings. But the human experience is what we're studying here. So the very idea of death is also an illusion. Najayate meyate vakadachan. You have illusions built on illusions. This is the thing. The first illusion, I'm the body. And what's in relation to it is mind. Right? You grow up in a family of similarly illusioned people, and that's what you're taught, and it's all fed, and it becomes an absolute certainty This is who I am, you know. And the mind and the intelligence, they interact with the world on the basis of that illusion and create this whole illusory thing. It's right at the beginning of the second canto, which is kind of a second beginning for the Bhagavatam. You know, it's like the first canto gives a whole lot of preliminaries and a lot of important philosophy. But then the second canto begins again. Maharaj Parikrit's question to Shukadeva, and he even chants Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You read the second canto. So he talks about this. He says, those who are not asking your question, which is what should one do as death approaches, right? Maharaj Parikrit was not old, but he was an old man because his death was there on his doorstep. And so he was asking, you know, he took the transcendental position, gave everything up, rather than hold on to it for dear life and have it ripped away by Mrityu Sarvadaschaham. He renounced everything, gave his kingdom, his everything, his clothes, sat down on the bank of the Ganges, and heard the Bhagavatam. So the question and answer, what should one think about? What should one hear about? What should one do as death approaches? Death is at his doorstep here. So Shukadev praised the question, very nice question. But those who are, what does it say? Those who have no vision or no interest in Atma Tattva, the truth of the self, truth of the soul, they have millions of things to hear. You fill your mind with so many different things that nourish your misconception, this illusion of a reality that really isn't there. It's a big dream. But it's a real dream to you. Just like in the nightmare we may have had experience, you may wake up screaming or your heart's beating, oh my God, you know, that lion was after me or some boogeyman or something. Oh, thank God, it was only a dream, you know. And on the other side, you have some pleasant dream and you wake up, oh, let me go back to sleep, see if I can get back into that dream, right? So probably the daydream and the night dream. You wake up from one dream, but you're in another dream. The whole thing is concocted, you know. So this is all due to our conditioned intelligence, and therefore the intelligent person, what does he do? Realizing that you're living in a dream world, you want to get to reality, and you hear from the realized souls that reality is wonderful. It's beyond birth and death. It's a world of no fear. It's a world. It's the land of love. You know, really, people are looking for that. That's what you're looking for. You know, and you try to find it here, and just get betrayed, and the person dies, or they take someone. You know, it's just constant frustration. But in the spiritual world, your relationship with Krishna and all of Krishna's devotees, you know, it's just loving exchange. It's not subject to destruction. The time factor is very conspicuous by its absence. One of Prabhupada's favorite, you know. So you hear about it, and it's important to see it personified. That here's someone who's practiced what he's trying to teach me, and he's in a different level. You know, the different. And Prabhupada showed he had the energy of a young man. He had the enthusiasm of a young man. You know. So where was his old age? That's what he's speaking about here in the purport. Is that the old age, and you know, doesn't affect the devotees the same way. Of course, the body's going to eventually fall, you know, but you don't experience it like that. Now, in my own little experience, you know, I can honestly say that, the body's getting older and it's restricted, you know, but I don't have the same mood as an old person. It says, all my sources of pleasure are going away. No, the shlokas I memorized 40 years ago are just as fresh, just as. You know, Hare Krishna mantra never gets old. Your appreciation for it may wane or wax, but you know that it's always there. See, now, you're not supposed to lie in front of the deities. You may not have heard that. He said that, I looked to say. Anyway, the point is that if we really connect with Krishna, we will not experience these things the same way as a total materialist. The absolute dread. I mean, we had this incredible, you know, phenomenon of this wonderful devotee, Shamali, who was so dear to us, who grew up here. I have a picture of her. She's like 2 years old. She grew up like when I was here. When I moved to Grand Avenue, I had several apartments here. Yamuna was right across the way, like 15 feet away, and this little girl was there. You know, Shamali, Gaur, his name was. And so I saw her grow up, into this wonderful devotee, and she had so many wonderful friends, and and then here's this disease coming. There's no way of treating it, But it was a wonderful passage. She had her parents there, she had all her friends and her husband, and constantly feeding her with Krishna Katha. Her Gurudev called, would spend hours on the phone, reading to her. And she was, according to the, Yamuna, she was free of fear at that time. It was just like exhaling, and someone came to take her away, And I'm telling you, I worked in a hospital for over a year, and as an inhalation therapist, and I've seen many people die. They're terrified, and it's a shocking thing, to see. And so it works. The process works if you're really fully Krishna conscious. What to speak of great devotees like Prabhupada, glorious passing. So we have to have faith in that, and but at the same time we need to be very serious about our real situation, which is that, here's this COVID pandemic. It's mutating. The socio-political situation in the United States is deteriorating. The economy is crashing. We're in a situation, now where every day that we can peaceful to chant Hare Krishna, we take advantage of it. Chant more rounds, get more absorbed, give up nonsense. Be really sober. Now it's true that that goes. Everybody faces that eventually in life. Time is running out. I got to get serious. And so that you experience from a lifetime, or as many years as you can, practicing Krishna consciousness, that your sense of priorities obviously changes, and we should continually try to prioritize Krishna consciousness as the most important thing. What else do we have? Material things are falling away, inevitably. So again, the theme is, try to be as Krishna conscious as possible, and give as much Krishna consciousness to others as possible. And bring them along, be part of the preaching effort. Because obviously this knowledge is essential. It'll never grow old. There's no question of it. Recently I gave it was one of the Zoom classes. The theme they gave me was the continuous validity of Srila Prabhupada's teachings for the present day. How could they be? How could anything be more valid? It's as valid as it was when Krishna spoke to the sun god millions of years ago. It's as valid today and will be forever. When is it ever old knowledge to think about the soul and birth, death, old age, and disease, and how we can reach a position of unending happiness, and who is God, where did everything come from? Those questions are eternal. Unless we come to asking those questions and being interested in that, we're in this illusion, in this dream world. That's why the end of all knowledge, the beginning of the end of all knowledge of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, having this human form of life, you should inquire into the absolute truth, that from which everything has come. And all the answers, all of the philosophy of Vedanta Sutra is nicely explained and summarized in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Artoyam Brahmasutranam. I just saw that. That's in the Garuda Purana, describing the Srimad Bhagavatam. Arto means the meaning, the import of the Vedanta Sutras, of the Brahma Sutras. The Vedanta Sutra is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are there's another list of characteristics. So it's at 8:30 already. Is there any discussion? I want to leave a little time because there's quite a little bit to read about.
Just a comment,
please.
As far as you're saying that old age means when we're about to die, there's that pastime of Prabhupada in Mexico, where the one he was being interviewed, and the interviewer, he had some knowledge of the Vedic life, and so he said, "Well, sannyas means usually when people are older." And Prabhupada said, "What does old age mean?" And he said, "Old age means about to die. Who's to say that you will not die before me?
Yeah.
Therefore I have given them sannyas."
Thank you for that. Yeah.
And also, actually it's true, you look the same as you did when I met you, 40 years ago. I think shaving up also helps a lot. You know, as soon as you shave up, shaving up. Yeah, there's no. If you grew your hair out, there'd be another thing. Same thing with me.
That helps to sober you up. There's no question about it. You lose it. And I'm telling you, so much money I saved on haircuts over the years. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Just think about that. All right, so should we read a little bit from the Samadhi's book? Okay. First we'll read about Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the son of Venkata Bhatt, a Sri Vaishnava Brahmin, appeared in Sri Rangam, South India. Lord Chaitanya once stayed for 4 months in his home and converted the family to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. This Gopal was a child at the time. A mere boy at this time, Gopal personally served the Lord. Sri Chaitanya treated him affectionately, giving his remnants and blessings to become an acharya. During his 4-month stay, Lord Chaitanya developed a close friendship with Venkata Bhatt, which Krishna's Kabiraj describes as Sakya-ras. Freely conversing with each other, they would often laugh and joke together. One day, in a humorous mood, Lord Chaitanya asked Venkata, "Why does your worshipable goddess of fortune, Sri Lakshmi Devi, abandon the happiness of Vaikuntha and her service to her Lord Narayan? Why does she go to Vrindavan and perform severe austerities to attain the association of my Lord Gopal, the cowherd boy of Braj?" Venkata answered, "I can't understand these mysteries, but you, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, can surely enlighten me." Lord Krishna has one unique quality, said Lord Gauranga. He attracts the hearts of everyone with his personal conjugal love, madhurya. Lord Narayan only has 60 transcendental qualities, but Krishna has 64. And all of them are saturated with his unique quality of madhurya, sweetness. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, attracts the mind of Lakshmi Devi, but Lord Narayan can never attract the minds of the gopis. In Braja Leela, Krishna, disguised as Lord Narayan, once appeared before the gopis who were searching for Krishna. Seeing Lord Narayan, the gopis said, "O Lord Narayan, pranams. Where did Krishna go? Did you see?" By following the gopis who spontaneously love Krishna without awareness of his godhood, one can attain Krishna. The Shrutis worshipped Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis. This is speaking about the personified Vedas. Following their footsteps, they received gopi bodies to join Krishna in the rasa dance. Lakshmi, however, wanted to enjoy Krishna but retain her spiritual form as Lakshmi Devi. Without following the gopis' footsteps, no one can attain Krishna. After receiving, so that's close quote, after receiving initiations from Prabodhananda Saraswati, doesn't mention here, that was his uncle, Gopal Bhatta came to Vrindavan and became a dear friend of Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. He did bhajan in Vrindavan for 45 years, mostly at Radhakund. On pilgrimage, he obtained 12 Shalagram Shilas. Later, the Damodar Shila manifested himself as a beautiful Radha Raman deity. Now, this doesn't mention that he really wanted to have a deity that he could dress and worship as the form, and so it manifested itself. Since 1542, the Radha Ramanaji, it's important to remember that Radha Raman is a name for Krishna. There's no Radha there, and it's not spelled properly here. It's not Radha, Shri Radha Raman, the lover of Radha. Since 1542, Radha Ramanaji has been worshipped with pure devotion following precise shastric rituals. Lord Chaitanya ordered Gopal Bhatta to write a book to check the spread of pseudo-loving rasas and negligence to Vaidhi Bhakti. That's rules and regulations. In cooperation with Sri Sanatana Goswami, he compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the authorized book explaining the ritual and devotional practices of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He also wrote Satkriya Deepika and the outline for Sri Jiva Goswami's Sat Sandarbhas. Hari Bhakti Vilas, we have part of it translated. I think, at least I have part of it on my computer translated. And there's a section that's just hundreds of verses about the glories of the holy name. If you're interested, I can share with you. Gopal Bhatta eternally served Srimati Radharani as one of her Asta Manjaris, 8 Manjaris. The name of the Manjari is Guna Manjari. His samadhi is within Radha Ramanaji's temple compound behind the appearance place of the deity. Okay. And we're going to also hear a little bit about Chandra Kabiraj. Chandra Kabiraj, the son of Sri Chiranjiva Sain, an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya, appeared in Sri Khanda. So one biographer said, Chandra Kabiraj was especially earnest, beautiful, intelligent, energetic, and enthusiastic. Although married, Chandra and his wife, Ratanala, had no material attachments. They stayed fully engaged in the loving service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had no children. With steadfast devotion, he served his spiritual master, Srinivasacharya. In Vrindavan, Sri Jiva Goswami gave him the title Kabiraj, king of the poets. He wrote the following beautiful verse. Is this in Sanskrit? Prakashila Mahaprabhu Hare Krishna mantra. This is like Bengali. Pramera Vadara Kari Balila Sangsara. Anda Avadiyata Kari Parsha Bindu Na Padila Mukhi Ramachandra Dasa. Sriman Mahaprabhu is so kind that he manifests the nectar of the Hare Krishna mantra. The holy name will free all souls from the cycle of birth and death, from the lower planets, from hell. The holy name will give one a taste of divine love for Radha Madhava. Whether blind or dumb, anyone can drown in this flood of prema. In this way, Lord Chaitanya has filled everyone with love of God. But Ramchandra Das is so unfortunate that he couldn't even taste a drop of that nectar. Ramchandra Kabiraj is one of the eight Kabirajas, famous poet disciples of Srinivasacharya. Ramchandra wrote Smarana Darpana, Smarana Chamatkara, Siddhanta Chandrika. He preached widely and initiated many disciples. Narottam Das Thakur and Ramchandra lived together as best friends. Narottam wrote, Daya Kore Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas, Ramachandra Sangi Magi Narottama Das. O Srinivasacharya Prabhu, please give me your mercy. Narottam Das always prays for the association of Ramchandra Kabiraj. And I think the song, Premadana, it ends with that, right? He mentions Ramchandra in there. In the form of Karna Manjari, he serves Srimati Radharani in Vrajalila. So all of these great acharyas, they aspired to be manjaris, who were younger assistants of Radha and Krishna. And one of the benefits of the manjaris is that they're so young, innocent, that they can help and witness the intimate pastimes of Radha Krishna. With the Sakis, they stayed back. They don't, see that directly. So that's why you'll find that many of our acharyas are manjaris in their original body. Okay, any other comments or questions? I don't know if their guests are listening in, but we'll resume tomorrow. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you for your attention. I think we can turn the fan off now.